So here's part 2 of the payday. The there's like as I've said before, there's a bunch of different ways that you can read the ALEF-BEIT, because it's essentially the fractal pattern of everything, of the whole universe. So if we take the concept of Aleph is Elohim, and Aleph is a prefix letter, basically is I am, I will. So it's identity and it's intent. And so Elohim has made the universe. So we could look at the mystery of why the letter Bet is the first letter of the first word of the first verse of the first book. Bereshit, Bet Resh Aleph Shin Yod Tav. And there's different ways you could read that and go on with it. But just looking at saying, okay, it starts with the letter Bet. The letter Bet as a prefix letter means in, on, with, among, through, against, in the capacity or condition of, price of. So it's a letter that means it's secondary to something else. In other words, you have to be in means there's something that's in something else, an object in an environment, a thing in a space. That's the use of in and on and with, among and through. There's a area, and then there's an object engaging the area. That's literally the meaning of the letter Bet. So both the area and the principal thing or object or person or that's engaging the area, well, that's kind of like the shape of the letter Kuf. Again, I'm trying to show you a correlation between some of these letters and some of these explanations. But the Aleph is a oneness, a unity, and a chad without the distinction of other. So to even say singular meaning one compared to what? More than one? Well, if singular is a oneness, then Aleph just is Aleph. Doesn't have any meaning until there's Bet. Once there's Bet, now Aleph is the one that Bet means the other, the two, the more than one. So Alephness, it has this reference of just consciousness being, without having to even be identified, because to identify something, you have to be outside of the thing and look at it and say, that's it. So imagine Elohim before making the universe. What did he do? Well, let's say the universe was the very first thing Elohim ever made. He existed forever, for eternity. There might be a jillion other universes throughout eternity that he might have made, but this is the one that's here and now. There's no way to know what he did before. Well, let's pretend this is the one and only one. Well, then what did he do for all the jillions of years before this earth was here? Twiddle his thumbs? Well, he didn't have thumbs. He didn't have a body. He did just a spirit that existed. It's like the human mind can't even go there. At least my human mind can't. So once you start trying to ponder these things, just looking at the upshot of what are these letters saying, it's just like it gets real huge, real fast, and it's just like pretty amazing. But then the idea that that's the Bet is the letter, and as we talked before, Gimel is the association. So Bet is a noun and Gimel is a verb that starts moving. Where do you go? Well, you have a decision. Go right or left, or hit a bump in the road and go wherever you will. Oh, so now it's a decision, and Hey is like, hey, maybe I should go this way instead of that way. So if Hey is information or enlightenment, it's referring to the decision of where you're moving, because you're now able to be the object in the space, because you're the consciousness. So we could say, well, Aleph is the Elohim that made all this, or we could say, yeah, but once I'm aware that I am also an Aleph. So when Yeshua said, hey, didn't I say you're all, doesn't it say in Psalms that Elohim said, aren't you all Elohim? Well, what does it mean to be Elohim? Are we gods? Well, that's not very Christian. There might be some other religion that fits in as a factor in the doctrine, but not Christianity. It almost sounds like a false doctrine of some kind of profanity. But what if this concept of Aleph being Elohim as being, let me use some different words, an entrepreneurial, proactive agent of your own enterprise. Entrepreneur, agent, enterprise. See, those would start with the sound of eh, it could be A, could be E, but they're both Aleph words in English. Author, architect, artist, administrator. Those A things are the ones that are responsible for making something happen. And if that's what the word Elohim means, like even in the dictionary, it'll say, well, a judge, a court judge whose voice is the final authority. Dalet Yod Nun is the word for judge. Mishpat, Shofet is the word for judge. But there's also this word Elohim. That's his voice has a powerful, significant effect, causing something to now be law or be the rule. If that's what he means by Elohim, then for any one of us to exist as an individual, call it a sentient being with a personal identity, makes us an Aleph. And if you call that an Elohim, that's a significant, call it a status, a stature, call it a, compared to a rock or a tree, we have mobility, we have sentient thoughts, and we have the ability to speak. And if Elohim created the universe by speaking, then one might question, well, what is the upshot? What are the ramifications? What is the effect if Adam speaks? Somebody years ago I saw had done some kind of study or a teaching where he said, let's suppose, imaginary story, that the animals that Adam was told to name were like clay animals. And when Adam spoke the name of the animal, it gave it characteristic. And it started living and behaving according to what Adam said. Now that's somebody's imagination of, let's pretend that happened. But what they were trying to say is that when Adam spoke to name the animals, he was actually not just declaring that's their name, but he was giving attributes of what that name meant and implied. And so then the animal was actually commanded to start behaving like that. So you could imagine a dog, if he called it turtle, of course that's English, a dog would behave like a turtle, and the turtle might behave like a dog if he had changed the words the other way around. And it's like, really? Or did Elohim actually build the animal, design and manufacture each animal in a certain way to have a certain position, and Adam was just observing and saying, oh, I'm going to call it that? We don't know. I'm just saying. People have discussed the impact of words for a long time. I remember hearing a long time ago that Christian teaching, I mean, probably 30, 40 years ago, that someone said, man is a speaking spirit. So that this concept of man speaks, Adam has words come out of his mouth, is his main attribute. Well, then for Elohim to make Adam in his image might be not physically torso, head, arms, legs, 2 eyes, instead of like a spider who's got 8 eyes or 8 legs. It's not about that. Maybe it's just the power to speak and make things happen. And in that capacity, for Adam to be called Elohim, we don't think that way. At least I don't, because I was never taught to think that way. But so we're going to look at something about this alphabet arrangement in the light of this. So if Aleph is this idea of self, just as a little experiment, try to think back, if you can, for yourself. Can you remember an event, or can you remember at what age you realized that you existed as a self? Remember when we were kids, my mom had kept like this little journal diary sort of a thing of what age we were when I'm going to picture you're a little baby laying in a bassinet type of thing, and all of a sudden, something hits you in the face, and it's like you're going, "Oh, what was that?" And it happens a few times, then all of a sudden you realize, "Hey, that I can control this thing bumping into my face, and in fact, this is attached to me. This is my hand." But see, that took an awareness, and my mom had documented. Oh, here's when the baby realized it had a hand. That took an event. So the same type of thing. How old were you, do you think, or can you remember? Like I was talking to my wife, she said one time she was maybe a year old. She was able to walk. There was a party of a bunch of other adults there, and she realized, hey, I can just walk away and go in another room. I don't have to be in here where all this talking, all this stuff is. I can just walk into the other room, and she did. Now, someone might have said, "Hey, where's the baby?" and go look and find her so she doesn't get into things. But she had that conscious thought. I'm suggesting that's Alephness, and so I'm gonna suggest that we can read this 22-letter sequence as a progressive development of Adam's conscious self-being and his ultimate destination of why Adam even is invented to live on the face of the earth. And therefore, each one of us can see this as a roadmap, as it were, the storyboard development of like a film or a movie or a book, where you're saying, here, we got to go through these chapters, or go through these phases. And if this is the potential, this is the objective, this is the plan, let's say, that Elohim had in his mind for making Adam, then if we live our whole, like I've talked to people, hey, what's truth? Some people have said there is no truth. Or is that true? Or some people have said it's whatever you want it to be. Is that true? A fellow the other day said, well, if there's no God, then there's no truth. I mean, anything could just be anything. It was like, does 2 + 2 always equal 4? Do the seasons follow a sequence? Does the sun follow a course? Why is that? Is that, well, that's not necessarily truth, but it's behaving according to a certain command of system, a regimented system, a mechanics. And then we look in the Bible, in the scripture, and it says, as long as these things happen, that the sea can't go past the shore unless there's a tsunami, but day and night, heaven and earth won't pass away. These words won't pass away as long as heaven and earth is here. And heaven and earth are going to fulfill, there's a duration, a gamut, a function. Well, the earth is the staging. I mean, the environment, the nature, everything around us is providing the theatrical set for Adam to accomplish a task. And when is that completed? Well, if the task is for some Adam to choose to be Israel, and for Israel to choose to be Resh, then that's the objective. And I can read this and say, well, then how many atoms, human beings, are given Alephness, put into the bet arena theater set, but the objective is for us to become Resh, which is a shining, glorious. And when that happens, that's the end, that's the accomplishment, that's the tav of the task. Then I could say, well, then I could choose to read this as my own personal itinerary. The word light, let there be light, Yehi Or, is ALEF-VAV Resh. And I could say, well, the Vav is a connector. So for the conscious, for the conscious Adam who has a self, to become a Resh, given the opportunity now through the other letters to say, well, he first has to step into a body, bet. Well, abort him, he'll never have a body and never be in the universe. Ha ha, plan thwarted. If you look at it that way, then abortion is a travesty of an adversarial satanic attempt to defeat the plan of Yehi Or. The word Yehi, Yod He Yod, is the verb to exist. Exist, that an Adam can Vav connect, be Adam can become Resh. See, this changes the way you think about everything. If you try to orient your thinking calibrated to what these letters are. So I could say, well, just the self existing and to be aware of it. I mean, I know people, I've talked to people, just random strangers sometimes, about, hey, why does the world exist? It's like, no idea. You ever thought about why this is here? Where's this going? Where did it come from before this? It's like, a lot of people seem to be just living. And then they take the last breath and they cease to live. They die, and it's like, well, what was that all about? I don't know. I was here and I did that. And then all of a sudden, if there's judgment, there you go, what? I was being held responsible for something? What? Why didn't somebody tell me? Yeah, why didn't somebody tell me? Suggesting the alphabet. So if I say, okay, if Aleph is the consciousness and Bet is then I actually exist as an independent consciousness in this body, in this place, that's more of the I am. One is just a consciousness, and all of a sudden, with place and staging and being, that's like the one and the zero, the kuf, that's the bet, the dot in the dog in the doghouse, as it were, the dot in the shape of the letter bet. Interesting ways that's put. Again, that's just the awareness of being. So you get Rene Descartes, who said, I think, therefore I am. I've been given beingness. I know I have because I think. That's what that whole discourse of his philosophy was. And then all of a sudden, like my wife said when she was 1 year old, she says, hey, I can just walk into the other room. Hey, look, I can do what I want. I don't have to wait for somebody to pick me up and carry me into the other room or yank my leash and drag me. I mean, I actually have the freedom to crawl or walk or I can do something. That's Gimel. And then to realize, well, animals do that. It's like, well, how much thinking does animals? Apparently, birds and animals do a lot of thinking. I mean, other, could say reptiles too. But the point is, Dalit is a conscious choice, meaning I'm not just functioning verb action. I'm thinking and choosing. I'm Daliting. To be given that concept of free will or choice, to say, you as an individual can have your own thoughts and do whatever you want. It's like Adam and Yahuah in the garden. Here you are. Do whatever you want. Eat whatever you want. I mean, theoretically, they could have jumped off the highest cliff into a pool of water if they wanted to, and they probably wouldn't have gotten hurt because the physics were such that, at least I can imagine, that wasn't even the rules of the game back then. Everything changed once they ate that fruit. But see, they were told, don't eat that fruit. So the interesting thing about the word fig is that I think it's Tav Aleph Nun Hey or something like that. But anyway, the point is it means the pretext for a quarrel. So in other words, Elohim planted that tree there on purpose because he said they could do anything. They're free to do anything. You decide what you want to do. You want to sleep, you want to walk, you want to jump up and down, you want to eat, you don't want to not eat, you want to roll around on the grass, well, do whatever you want. But he's going to find one thing to say, if there's going to be a conflict, this is the conflict. I'm going to stick this one tree here and say, don't eat it. I'm going to tell you, you can do anything you want, but don't do that. And so that was the entire consciousness of, there's going to be a problem, this is the problem. And the other interesting thing about the word fig is it's the word that means excuse. Or it was her fault, his fault. It's like, okay, that kind of sets up what it means to be Adam on the earth. It's just kind of interesting. So hey is this other information other than the choice. So even in the Garden of Eden, you're free to do anything you want, except that. So the hey is this other information of except, or hey, you better pay attention here. And then the Vav is like, hey, I can do whatever I want. I can listen to the information or not listen to the information. I once saw a little sign on the thing that says, caution, make sure you read the instructions before using this device. And I looked at it and thought, I know I already looked at the instructions. I mean, it was a few years before, and I don't know where the instructions are, but I know I already read them. Is this talking to me? I think I should go ahead and use this device. And it's like, am I going to regret this decision? It says, don't use this, but it's like, it's pretty simple. I mean, what can go wrong? I mean, but I did read the instructions. Am I going to regret? I went ahead and used it, and it was in big trouble, really, really big trouble. Virtually, not quite, but virtually broke my neck. I couldn't hardly move for months. Didn't know if I'd ever. It was horrible because I didn't take that information. I evolved. I connected. I decided to do what I was going to do without paying attention to that warning, that hey, and the ramifications of really badly serious pain and duration of immobility and on and on and on. Well, that's the Zion. Because I evolved without regarding the hey, I got the Zion of this horrible affliction. So I can look at these first 7 letters and say, well, for Yahweh to say to Adam and Eve, don't eat of that tree lest you die. The lest you die is the Zion. That's the imposed curse. But you could say, yeah, but Zion's not necessarily a curse. Well, it's death. It's being put to the weapon. It's stop. It's cut off. So you could say, I could say, well, look at mankind's basic life is the first 7 letters. Well, why 7? 7's the heavenly number. Why is it the heavenly number? It's not a heavenly number. The word 7, Shin Bet Ayin, literally means to swear a vow. And it also means you have to fulfill the vow that you swear. And if you don't fulfill the vow that you swear fully, completely, satisfy the vow, then you get cursed. So the curse you get for not fulfilling the vow that you swore to, that's all number 7. What's that got to do with man's life on earth? What vow did mankind ever swear? He was told not to eat of the tree lest he die. Well, that was kind of Yahuah making, saying something. He said something, and whatever he says, he does. He says, if you eat that fruit of that tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the day you eat that, you're going to die. Well, what's a day? Ha ha, what's a day? 1,000 years like a day. Adam died within 1,000 years. In fact, all men have died within the 1,000 years. So that's kind of, anything Yahuah says is essentially the same as a vow. He said it, that's what it is. You know, we say, well, I had my fingers crossed, it doesn't count, or I didn't really. Hey, listen, you say it, Yeshua said, people were saying, if you swear by the gold in the temple, then you have to do what you say. But if you say, you know, if you say just kidding within 3 seconds, then it doesn't count. And it's like, if you swear by the Ark of the Covenant covered with gold in the temple, it's like, if it's yes, yes, and if it's no, no, just stop it. Stop all that other nonsense. Whatever you say, do what you say. That's what Elohim does. That's what Yeshua did. That's what we should be. So I can look at this and say, hey, just if you say it, do it. Take what you say as a vow of either blessing or cursing. If you don't do what you say, you're in big trouble. Just do what you say. You can do anything you want. Don't do what he said, don't do. So I can see that, and I can just run around these first 7 letters and find out how I should be. And I can read the first 7 letters and say, man is given the time to walk the earth and do whatever he wants. He's given some information. He can take it or not, but then he's going to die. And after that, Het thrown into a tomb. But I could say, well, Het is the number 8, which is turned on its side and this infinity symbol. And so 8 represents the internal realm, which we don't know. It's behind the curtain. It's on the other side of the veil. But we are walking the earth on this side, just doing whatever we do. So I could say, well, this is these first 7 letters is kind of like this consciousness where people live. And if we listen to the Hey, let's say Elohim's voice, which written in the Torah, written in the gospel, the Bible, and philosophers and scientists and those who suggest that there is something beyond this life, they say, you know, if you're really stupid and you do some bad stuff, you're going to get cursed both now and beyond the grave. What? That's right. You're going to raise from the dead and get whacked again. Yeshua called it the second death. So you better behave yourself. You know, you'll find out. But that's not the end of human life. You know, some people say, well, you die, and nobody knows, and nobody cares, and I don't care. And it's like, yeah, well, you might want to care, because if the reality is death is just phase 1 and there's something else later, you might want to listen and take consideration of at least what this is saying, because if this is true, if these 22 letters sets up the truth of what Elohim built as Adam's experience, and it includes not just running around this side of death, but also something on the other side of death, it might suit you well to pay attention. In which case, what does this Het represent? One reason for drawing the Het in this shape, as I said before, is that here's you get like this shape of the Big Dipper, and here the shape of the Little Dipper, and they weren't dippers, they were sheepfolds. The square is the sheep pen, and then the 3 stars is the sheep going out, but they're also the sheep coming back. And so you could say, well, the 2 different sheepfolds were disconnected, like the Big Dipper, Little Dipper, and the sheep wandered away. But when Yahuah, Ezekiel 37, is going to bring them back and reconfigure them with 1 pin, 1 shepherd, so you get that shape, that pin in the side. So some people draw it with like 2 rectangles. I specifically draw it this way because it's like Yeshua is the one shepherd of the United Kingdom. And he's like that pin holding them together. The shepherd who sleeps at the door, as it were, another metaphor. So I see in the picture of the Het drawn that way, Yahusha being the king, the shepherd of the united kingdom of the 12 tribes, just so you know. And that is not one of many religions, one of many options. The het with the blue, purple, red, white, standing for Yod He Vav He, like blue, purple, red, white. The 4 colors on the Mishkan embroidery is very specifically Yahuah. So this het not just represents eternal realm, eternal life, but the kingdom of Yahuah, not the kingdom of Zeus and Jove or any other deity using his name with other attributes, but it's the kingdom of that one who called himself with his own words in his own language, Yahuah Zavot Elohim Israel. Now that guy with very specific preferences, likes and dislikes, hopes, wants, looking forward to, the one with a mind and a heart, a ruach, very specific, including these things, not including those things. That's all this het. It's not just any random religion, not just everybody gets to go to heaven. It's not just everybody's God's child. He calls some people his children, and he calls some people not his. And he says some people are going to get in big trouble, the second death, thrown into the lake of fire, bottomless pit for the adversary. It's like, what? And I know some people don't like to think about that, which is why I'm saying, to say that this is a very specific consciousness, if it's the kingdom of Yahweh, and it includes Tet Yod, and so like the alphabet song, sealed by Tet like a wedding ring, Yod his hand who formed my hand to hold onto his cough, which is Torah, 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 our regard reveals the heart, Lamading, so that from Mem at blessed noon restart. Okay, so if that's the case, then we could say, once you join up with him, like the word kala, bride, it's all or nothing. It's your previous conscious existence is gone, destroyed, ceases to exist, and you're now his, possessed by Yahuah, Yod, owned by, belonging to the blue, purple, red, white entity. And like the bride, Kaf Lamed Hey, your entire existence is now in a doting relationship of heart to heart, mind to mind. This is everything. And whatever it used to be is now nothing. You're no longer just the entrepreneurial agent of I can do whatever I want, go wherever I want, except for don't, like when we were kids, do not just walk across the street without looking first, or maybe not at all when you're real little, but you just walk in, bam, you get hit by the car. God, look. Well, that's, hey. But you see, just the idea of living your life without consideration, once you join up with Yod He Vav He, sealed by Tet like a wedding ring, possessed and owned by him, you are now obligated and locked into what's in front of you, Kaf. His lines of instruction, rules, protocol, custom, absolute law. This is what it means to be possessed by him in his kingdom. And this becomes your reality. And you need to lamed, teach and learn this stuff with the absolute authority, as if it was the Constitution, it was the government, it was the policeman, it's just, you want to be that. That's the lamed of that Kaf being in here. And anything out here just serves to make you aware of this, that you can choose that thing, that one kingdom of Yahuah. How many people know that? Do you want to live forever? Oh, yeah, okay, sure. If it's better than this, okay, sure, I'll live forever. You can have eternal life, just believe in Jesus. Oh, okay. What do I have to do? Just take Jesus, save my soul, forgive me of my sins, and you get to live forever. Okay, done. Sorry, that's not this. This is different. This is because Yahushua was crucified and I can have my sins forgiven and be bought into the kingdom of Yahuah. I now need to learn his rules, instructions, protocol, and have my inner heart changed. And as my inner heart is softened, he talks about having your heart of stone removed and replaced by a heart of flesh. That emet and chesed rule, truth and kindness, which means anything that's not of truth and kindness has to be ejected, has to be purged, cleansed, somehow completely taken away. So my connecting to him is this process of memming to dwell, to care for, to cherish, to worship. There's a whole bunch of stuff here we're going to get to another day. But what I'm saying is that the idea of what if mem is the inner womb and the seed, his word, like the small letter yod in the modern, that's the seed of his word that's written as kaf, lines to teach and learn. And as my mem, as I nurture that DNA, that seed of his identity, his way of thinking, his way of processing what he likes, what he doesn't like, his moedim, his Sabbath day, the ayin dalits of his moedim, his Passover. Jesus Christ is my Passover. I don't need to regard it. No, I want to, because there's a consciousness there to participate in the Pesach commemoration is to engage with him, both Yahushua and Yahuah, our Father. So he provided these things as a very specific way of connecting in a yada way, a personal experience beyond just facts and figures and knowledge and information. It's an experience to have something to do with him because he said so. That's the way he designed it. So any enemy that says, oh, don't keep the Moedim, don't keep the Sabbath day, Jesus is your Sabbath day, those are all words of the Nachash in the garden. Oh, did he really say that? He didn't mean that. What you really should do is not do what he said. It's like, whoa, where did these words come from? Jesus is my Passover. Jesus is my Sabbath day. Paul must have said it. Oh, then Paul's an idiot. Shut up, Paul. Or the translators of supposedly what Paul said. Because I think Paul would have had a few different things to say than that. But you can spin anything in a translation. So if mem is my inner heart changing, this noon, remember as I said before, the mem is the ultimate degradation, the state like a caterpillar type going down into the slurry so it can come out as the butterfly type out of the chrysalis. But the caterpillar, it eats everything, forms this cocoon chrysalis, and then apparently every molecule dissolves into an aqueous slurry, eyeballs and feet and fuzzy hairs on his back, and then it reforms. The eyeball doesn't turn into a butterfly eyeball, and the caterpillar foot doesn't turn into a butterfly foot. Everything dissolves into a slurry, and everything gets reformed in the chrysalis. So that's the condition of mem and noon. Mayim is water, noon is reforming, there's reforming and coming back out to be birthed as this same person, different creature, as it were. Butterfly coming out of the caterpillar, starting at mem, in mem at noon. So again, mem is this environment or this condition that noon is the again, going back to like the singular and the event parameters, kind of like the bet and the kuf and the mem nun. If you start then to do what comes from the heart, like I was talking to this guy the other day, I said, you know what the great vow is? He says, well, like a wedding vow, a marriage vow. Yeah, well, an individual person having a life, certainly the wedding vow is probably the most significant, or if you join the military and you swear in. But what's the great vow of the Bible? And it's like, I said, you know, on Mount Sinai, where Israel said, everything Yahweh said, we will hear and we will do. And he says, those guys, those stupid idiots, this is stupid, it's wrong. Use some more extreme words. Knowing that they can't, knowing that they weren't supposed to, that gosh, anything that they're going to get killed if they pick up a stick on the Sabbath day, those blasted, blazing idiots. You know, to say that, it just makes me think, you've learned the church doctrines very well. They've got you to hate everything Yahweh has said. What did Yahushua say? I only do what I see my Father doing and say only what I hear him saying, and I'm all about his stuff. That's the nooning attitude. And if you noon from that mem, everything Yahweh says, I want to understand, I want to be the person that he had a mind for me to be from before the creation of the universe, that I'm going to samach ayin pei. I'm going to do justly, love mercy, walk humbly with my Elohim. I'm going to do everything I possibly can, which is going to produce me zadi kufing into resh, hausheening. So the noonin function is the hey in action of us choosing the vav, do what he said. We're doing the kaf because yod, ani ladodi v'dodi thee. I'm his and he is mine. And he has given me the opportunity here, Aleph. Whether or not we pre-existed the earth doesn't even matter. Well, we don't remember if we did. I know some people believe we did and some people believe we didn't. But he put us here so that we can vav to resh if we want to. If we listen to hey, we listen to kaf. What did he say? Lamed it. Take it to heart and samach ayin pei so that you can zadi kufing into resh. That's the objective. And how do you get that? The zadi is the blossoming of the noon into a whole different dimension of this frame of mind. The pei, the samach ayin pei is like this processing. Like I said, the triangle of the down here in this bottom part of the chart, like the Mazda rotary engine. Do justly, love mercy, walk humbly with your Elohim. Do justly, love mercy, walk humbly with your Elohim, and bear the fruit. Consider the fruit. Is this what right to eat the fruit, fertilize the tree to bear more fruit? It's just this processing is one simple way of reading those things. The letter kuf literally is the back of the head, and it literally means after this, after death, after the resurrection, unto eternity. But the word yod ayin kuf bet, Jacob, ayin kuf bet, it's the wake of a ship. It's that which follows. It's a footprint. It's like payday. That's what's coming. So to say, hold on to that hope of what he said, that realization that this is true, because look, it's locked in, and it's locked into the alphabet, which is held by the Moedim and the Sabbath day, and the identity of Yahushua being the guy who followed out these letters. That's proof that this is the truth, that this is the original language, because it all fits, because he said, day one, let there be light. Day two, separating water from water. That everything lines up according to the first 7 letters being a small version of the next 11 letters. And everything so fits that for Elohim to have this in mind and refer to himself as Yod Hey Vav Hey, because it was in the 6th letter and the 5th letter again. And everything has a purpose and a function and a place that he associates himself with before he ever made man, Adam. And then he sticks Adam there and gives him words of command having to do with these, and everything fits. This is the truth. This Hebrew ALEF-BEIT is the truth, holding the first 7 days and the Moedim and the Mishkan pattern and the Beatitudes and numerous other places where this thing holds the pattern. So the hope, the expectation, that the secure confidence that he gives us, the kuf, no matter what turbulence we're in our regular life, for me to say, well, what can I do? How can I think? Remember, I opted into his kingdom and he possesses me. He gave me his words. I've taken it to heart. If I do this, it blossoms unto eternity. And that somehow, that kuf overview of this treasure box is a retaining of sanity, of peace, of reality. Holding on to the reality of the unseen, which is faith. Faith is the substance of the things not seen. For me then to be in that position, that stature, as it were, of consciousness, of a dignity, not just behaving for my own good, my own consumption, but in light of this whole thing, it builds a perspective of identity, of authenticity, of accomplishing why the universe exists and why did Yahuah go through all this, and why did Yahusha risk coming down here, going through the crucifixion and all that, to gain a few are those that find it. He went through all this rigmarole to gain a few Adams who would be Resh, Haushinin, the glory of Resh, as the flower Zadi of one who noons out of the Mem. So we're destined for death, coming to the earth, but out of that demise of the mortality, the promise, and Yeshua came and ran that to prove that it works. Blazed the trail out the other side, cleared the way so that we, whoever wants to, can follow right in that path. Woof, right through. Nooning out of Mem. And then the Tav at the end is the I swear, I promise vow of the Aleph. So I can read this as one who was given to run this consciousness, to run this life on earth. And this is the map of how to do it successfully. I can take the information that, though I can choose anything, choose to enter this kingdom. And entering his kingdom, what did he say? How do I do it? Take it to heart and then do what he said, Samakai and Pei, believing there to be this, especially now that the Pei-Zadi, that all the words flower and flourish and come back to life and everything just like he said, and it'll be unto the exaltation where he says, this is my people. As we say, Yahuah Elohi, Zechariah 13:9. How incredible. To just sit and look at these things and ponder this. So down here, oh, it's not on this one. Okay, well, anyway, where I have what's called the this part here in the gray, got kind of like this triangle with this arrow. You could say that the consciousness of all this is an arrowhead pushing towards that. And the Zadi. Why is the pay here instead of back here? Because the notion of identity, the notion of who are you, how do you think, how do you behave, how do you live, and then you speak. That's what Yeshua did. He didn't just speak anything, he spoke the words that he heard his father say. The integrity of character, the alignment from within of all this coming out your mouth causes the Zadi. So for when Yahushua said to the storm, peace be still, the blossoming Zadi was the waves stopped, their agitation. When he said, rise up and walk. When he said to Lazarus, step out of the grave. For any one of us, like his model, to have this within us and then speak. That's the reality. When it says every knee is going to bow, basically, in my estimation, to see this and realize this is absolutely true. And this is his story, Yahushua's story, which is his identity, which is to say his majesty. To bow before him is saying, you're the one who did, you're the one who invented this, made this, and did this, and called me into it with you. Who else am I going to bow to? Is there any other in the possible wild imagination? Of course not. Not myself, not any other fake deity I can dream up, but you, of course. I mean, to see this is to see what this is to bow to him. And the letter Pei with the beatitude lining up right through here. Blessed are the pure in heart. They shall see Elohim. What does it mean to be pure in heart? Yahushua said of one man, he has no guile. It's like, what is the guile? What is the twisted, intentional, trying to connive and distort? And is the pure in heart just like, Yahweh, cause me to see the truth. Would you please cause me to see the truth and conduct this event? If this memnoon is within the heart, then I don't want to carry through nooning unto zodding unto reshing unto eternity any of this distortion and lies and the deception of all the Elohim Achrim and the fake science and the fakes. Gosh, please purify my inner being to bring forth what is possible. There's this thing somebody sent me on the internet. They were talking about meaning of the word logos. They're saying that words carry the inner alignment. If you believe versus if you fear. If you fear, if that's part of the stuff you're bringing with you, so everything that he said, don't fear. Keep the Sabbath day. Everything we do in belief, in trust, in obedience, align everything we can do that aligns us, and then we speak, and that's what manifests. If we hold on to fear and we speak, are we going to manifest our fear? Manifest the object of the thing we're afraid of? What I'm saying is that if you look at this stuff and then say every single thing that he told us not to do, he said, don't eat pork, shellfish, Anything that doesn't have fins or scales, why? It'll abominate you. How's it going to abominate me? What if it messes up your thinking so that what you then speak brings a corrupt illness, insanity? What if everything he said that we align with projects into a life? Is that enough reason to do what he said, finally? If he said, like at Passover, the one command for Sukkot, not Passover, for Sukkot, the one command for Sukkot is Ak Sameach. It's translated only rejoice. Aleph Kaf, Shin Mem Het. Aleph Kaf is the word I will hand. Aleph Kaf, this is what I'm giving you. You could say is only rejoice. Sameach, Simcha. Well, I don't feel like rejoicing. He didn't say feel like rejoicing. He said rejoice. The command for Sukkot is to rejoice. Gosh, how do you do that? When you take that to heart, sometimes you get into conflicts when you're in proximity of people and put to the challenge. Can you do that? Just saying. It's not always so easy. Everything that we line up with opens unto the pays unto Zadi. I could look at this and say somehow pure in heart, only rejoice. Pay is opening, but it's almost like a filter. It's the last chance to change anything in here before it gets manifested, you might say, unto eternity forever, especially if this represents the resurrection. While we're here, we're still processing, and we have time to change or affect what we're going to be wearing for eternity. Just a consideration. So just to reiterate something here, the idea that what did Yahuah say? Everything he said, if that's a Zadi, if that's a flourishing, if that's a life, a resurrection, a renaissance, everything he said yields a blossoming. Then why should we grab a hold of any teaching or doctrine that says that was stupid stuff that we really don't have to do? He just gave that to some people as a punishment. It's like, why would I have any interest in listening to that? Especially knowing that, like what Moses said, your enemies will try to deceive you. The last thing that Moses said to Israel before Moses died was, who's like you, Israel, who has such an Elohim who's right there with them? Your enemies are going to try to deceive you. If I take that seriously and say, the only way for my enemies not to deceive me is that if I listen to what did Yahuah say, what does that mean? And what should I then do? Believing that it's going to Zadi, to Kuf, to Resh, to Sheen. Is that enough motive to learn the language? Take the time to, and then when I hear what sounds like a profound doctrine, an interesting doctrine, a beautiful Christian oratory that says Jesus Christ is my Sabbath day, Jesus Christ is my Passover. Okay, fine, then I should do it the way he did. But to say, well, that's reason for me not to walk in his ways because it it counts like as if I did it. That's not what he said. What he said was that we're supposed to do it. Well, that was changed. No. Who said that was changed? Did Yahweh ever change the Sabbath day? Did he ever change the terms? And then somebody will say, yeah, well, then are you killing animals? He also said it wasn't about the animals. Yeah, but he also said to kill the animals. So what I'm saying is here, we'll talk about these things a little bit next week on the Zadi. But what the idea, what did he say? What does he really want us to do? So I've written down a few other times where he says, just be kind to each other. Just help the widows and orphans. Just do justice. Look at Isaiah 58. Here, in fact, it says Deuteronomy 13, lining up with the Beatitudes. Why? Hey, Carla, how much more time do we have right now?
It's about the hour, but finish your thought, Eric. We're there. We're not rushing.
Well, if I grab this, Bible, it's going to dislodge the phone. Okay, I'm going to do it anyway. Hang on. Hang on.
If you like, just put it on the other view. If it's more comfortable for you.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Here, I'm just going to point out why I did something over here. I'm going to point out some little aspect of this part of the chart. Here it says Bet Yod Nun. Now, if you look at Strong's Concordance, that word is either 995 or 996. 995 just said it means between. So whatever the word is, being, like he separated between the day and between the night. Being ha'oru, being ha'chosek. Okay. But 996 means, this is what Bet Yod Nun means. View, regard, to know, to interpolate, between, among, during, to separate, divide, distinguish, clear, evident, perceived, to become wise, understood, explained, instructed, comprehension, discern, to look well to, be prudent, to think, to have intelligence. That's the word being. No, you're gonna always translate just between. What? That's using your head while you have a beanie. If someone hits you on the head, the guy, go ahead, hit on the bean. That's why they call it a bean. And like I said before, I've heard people say to think is carnal. Not if you look at the word being, it's exactly what it means. It means to think to the extreme. Really, really use your head. Why is that here for Resh Shin Tav? Because the word Resh Shin, Tav can be the suffix meaning that's what's happening. Resh Shin is to be licensed, authorized, and permitted. As in, after going through all this stuff, if you come out the other side, that's where you really get to be as the status of the essence of perfection, the Resh status. Sefer, as in book, as in scroll, count, number, tell, narrate, to cut, shape, like shaping hair of a barber, a coiffure, letter, document, book, writing, enumeration, census, border, frontier, what's known as the Sephirotic tree of life, fence post, enclosure, fence line connecting, describing the boundary of an estate, figure, cipher, digitized, literary, constellational configurations. Mem Zayin Resh is a twisted or corrupted, but this is the Sefer is to put it straight. Mazar, like Mazarot, I'm just saying the play on words there. What I'm saying is that to be able to look at this and put it together is exactly Sefering and being. To be able to look at all this and see it and say, well, there's the truth, because it lines up with everything that Yahuah said about himself, about Yahusha, about our life, about the universe, about the Moedim, about the Mishkan, the tabernacle. It's all right here. And to see this and to live your life with that as your goal, as your objective, as to become, that's the Ish Gabor. Look down here, Deuteronomy. I'll just mention a couple things about this. if I looked at Deuteronomy 13 to start with, having to do with the Matthew 5. So given that Matthew 5 is true, how does it relate to Deuteronomy 13? My phone's about to die. It's saying, if, verse 2, well, verse 1, the entire word I command you, that shall you observe to do. You shall not add to it, not subtract to it. Jesus is my Sabbath day, therefore I don't have to keep the Sabbath day. No. Yeah, but Jesus said the guy gave me Matthew 5. Yeah, that's right. And he also said, don't add or subtract, and you better do everything. If there should stand up in your midst a prophet, a dreamer of a dream, and he will do a sign or a wonder, rise from the dead, walk on water, and the sign or wonder comes about, which he spoke to you, saying, let's follow gods of others that you didn't know, and let's worship them. Do not hearken to the words of that prophet, or the dreamer of a dream, for Yahuah your Elohim is testing you to know whether you love Yahuah your Elohim with all your heart and all your soul. Yahuah your Elohim shall you follow, and him shall you fear. His commands shall you observe, and to his voice you shall hearken. Him shall you serve, to him shall you cleave, and that prophet, that dreamer of a dream, shall be put to death. So if Yeshua was leading anybody astray, he darn well should have been crucified. Paul too, if Paul was leading people astray from Deuteronomy 13, he should have been put to death. This is really serious stuff. You honor Jesus, who gave you Matthew 5, then you honor Deuteronomy 13 and do the Torah. What's Deuteronomy 14? The next thing here. You are children to Yahuah your Elohim. You shall not cut yourselves. Don't make a bald spot for a dead person. You're a holy people to Yahuah your Elohim. Yahuah has chosen you for himself to be a treasured people from among all the people on the face of the earth. You shall not eat any abomination. And then he goes on to tell us what to eat. And it's like that lines up with, Matthew 6, the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven. Really? Then you better quit eating what he said not to eat, or else you're defiling the words out of your own mouth. Quit saying the prayer. What's Deuteronomy 6? Having to do with from James 3:16. If you have jealousy, self-seeking, there's confusion in every foul deed, but the wisdom from above is first pure and clean, peaceable, gentle, ready to obey, reasonable, filled with mercy, good fruits, without partiality, unwavering, without hypocrisy. What's that got to do with Deuteronomy 6? Deuteronomy 5 is the 10 commandments. Deuteronomy 6 says, this is the commandment and the decrees and the ordinances that Yahuah your Elohim commanded to teach you to perform in the land to which you are crossing to possess it, so that you will fear Yahuah your Elohim, observe all his decrees and commandments that I command you. You, your child, and your grandchild, all the days of your life, so that your days will be lengthened. You shall hearken, O Israel, and beware to perform, so that it will be good for you, and so that you will be increased very much, as Yahuah your Elohim of your forefathers spoke of you, a land flowing with milk and honey. Shema Israel, Yahuah our Elohim, Yahweh Echad. You shall love Yahuah your Elohim with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your resources. And all these matters I command you today shall be upon your heart. You shall teach them diligently, thoroughly to your children, and you shall speak of them while you sit in your house, while you walk in the way, when you rise up, and when you retire. Bind them as a sign upon your arm, and let them be as ornaments between your eyes. Write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. And yet we're told that this Old Testament stuff was nailed to the cross and done away with? No, not so at all. The rest status is one who has these matters on their heart, and any voice to the contrary is like, I'm not saying the Bible's wrong, but I'm saying the translations, if they lead us astray, if the preachers lead us to, why did they ever say those words? They should never, them damn fools. Why did they say that they swear to hear and do whatever Yahweh said? Because that was the best thing to say, and you're thinking it was the stupidest thing to say. So this man is the product of foul doctrine, foul teaching. Deuteronomy 7, verse 12. This shall be the reward when you hearken to these ordinances and you observe to perform them, Yahweh your Elohim will safeguard for you the covenant and the kindness that he swore to your forefathers. He will love you, bless you, multiply you, bless the fruit of your womb, and the fruit of your land, your grain, your wine, your oil, the offspring of your cattle, the flocks of your sheep and goat, on the land he swore of your forefathers to give you. You will be the most blessed of all the people. There will be no infertile male or infertile female among you, among your animals. Yahweh will remove from you every illness, the bad maladies of Egypt that you knew. He will not put them upon you, but upon them, upon all your foes. You will devour all the people that Yahweh your Elohim will deliver to you. Your eye shall not pity them. You shall not worship their gods, for it's a snare for you. Anytime that the enemy, the adversary, can get us to misunderstand, miscomprehend, misappropriate truth or value of anything Yahweh said, it's a snare, it's a trap, it's a trick. The only way to be of the rest status is to be able to perceive the reality of what did he say? Is it the DNA, the identity of Yahweh Zevot, the Elohim of Israel? What did he say? How do I do it? Am I resisting it? Is something wrong? Check the fruit. Am I thinking that I'm doing what he said, but it's bearing bad fruit? The fruit is not of him. Better make the correction. Better do any correction I can before I'm locked in for eternity. But if I'm doing this, then this is the eternal destiny right there. Anyway, I think we're probably about out of time, right? And that, does that make it clear anyway? I hope clarify what we're talking about. Is there anything left unclear of this matter? Well, nobody's answering. I guess we should go ahead and end. Want to close this out, Carla?
Of course, yes. Hallelujah. Thank you, Abba, because that has given us a lot through our brother Eric to ponder upon. There's a lot that we have seen, and there's so much that we can learn. We praise thee, Abba. We thank thee because through thy pay, Father, thou spoke us into existence. We praise thee with our own. We call on to thee for guidance. We thank thee for being, Abba. We praise thy name. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Amen.
Thank you.